I've always been obsessed with my weight, and I hated the fact that I had gained so much weight. But I religiously would weigh myself, no matter if I was in shape or if I was heavy. So like, at your sister's wedding, I was 275 pounds, and that wasn't even the max. The worst was still to come, so December 2021 was when I weighed my heaviest. I was 355 pounds. I was just
Did
round.
you hear this, Jeff? Did you hear this? Dude, did you hear this?
No way. There's no way.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he just said?
No way.
Okay, everybody, just so you know, just so I fill in, Jeff was 354.6 pounds when he started a weight loss journey with me, where he lost 66 pounds in less than a year. So Kris, the guy next to him, was like half a pound heavier than that at his heaviest, which blows my mind.
Yeah, and I used to watch a show on TLC because it kind of related to it. It was called My 600-Pound Life. Yeah. And it's basically a show about morbidly obese individuals who are like 600 plus pounds. And once I was in that range, I knew like the next exit from the next like a stop for me was 400 pounds. Because once you're at 355, it's like clear runway to 400. So I like, it wasn't like, I can't remember exactly, but honestly, it really felt like I wasn't eating bad during the day. Like I felt like during the day, I ate pretty strict. As a matter of fact, I probably didn't eat that much, but the problem was later on, like when I came home from work, I would just binge, and then, normally what happens after you binge, you want to take a nap or go to sleep. And that's how my nights would end. And long story short, December 2021, I weighed my heaviest. And I really thought that there was no hope for me. So based on that show, what I learned from that show, these individuals would get a weight loss surgery where it's a laparoscopic surgery where the doctor would cut out like 80% of your stomach, and basically it would force you not to eat. So I was like, all right, well, I definitely don't want to hit 400. So that's going to be my nuclear option. And, and realistically, you can't just go and get the surgery. They make you, for insurance purposes to qualify, they make you go through like a checklist of, let's say, 20 or so items. A lot of it's psychological testing that you have to do, meeting with a shrink. So I was like, all right, I started the process. And I actually ended up completing about like 18 or 19. Like I tell people, I literally had one more checklist to go, and then I would have been cleared for surgery of June of that year, which would have been 2022. But at the same time, when I went to get do the checklist for the surgery, I went through like I forgot what it's called, but it's like a fat doctor, doctors who specialize in gastric bypass. Mm-hmm. But my own doctor, simultaneously at the same time, he told me in December, he said, hey, you know what? If you're not going to go fix your sleep, don't come back. And he had told me many times before, hey, you got to go get your sleep checked. You got to go. And, I never did. And finally, in December 21, he told me, if you're not going to listen to me about sleep, don't come back. And at that point, I was, pre-diabetic. I think diabetes, to be declared diabetes, is like you have to be 6.5 on the A1C scale. And I was like right there, like we're talking about 6.3 or 6.4. Another 0.1, and I would have been declared diabetic instead of pre-diabetic. So finally, I was like, all right, well, I might as well go get my sleep done. And I was familiar with the process because in 2012, I can tell you exactly how much I weighed. I was 230 pounds. I had started to increase. And just to backtrack a little, in 2009, I was 180 pounds like 30-inch waist and everything like that. But so from 2009 to 2012, I gained, 45 pounds. So, so when I did the sleep study in 2012, again, to be in compliance with insurance, they make you take a take home, like a contraption that looks like it almost reminds me of like the straps of a book bag, but it's got like the mechanical mechanism on it. So when I took that in 2012, I think I used it for like 2 or 3 nights, and then I sent it back to the doctor, and they called me on the phone and said, "Hey, you're approved. You can stop by and pick up your CPAP." So I stopped by, I picked it up. I probably used it for 3 times, and I was like, you know what? I'm never ever using this again because it's hurting my sleep. And I told Fran, it's the worst decision I've ever made in my life because it created that's a decision single-handedly took me from a guy who's a little overweight to that highway to 355. So now in December of 2021, when I did the same test again, I took the take-home test. They called me, but this time it wasn't to say, "Here's your CPAP." They said, "Hey, you know what? We need you to come and spend the night and do an overnight test in our lab." And I was thinking in my head, oh my gosh, like this cannot be good because in 2012 they said, "Here's your CPAP." Now they're saying I got to come in. So, that's part of it. Like when you're like super overweight, you don't really want to go to the doctor, like out of fear of what you're going to hear. You probably sense it in your head. Like I would feel tingling, like tinglings in my like feet, and I'd be thinking I probably have diabetes. This is before, so one of the reasons I never really went to the doctor was because I didn't want to hear what he was going to tell me. So anyway, I did the sleep test, and I told him, "Hey, you know what? The reason why I didn't use the CPAP in 2012 was I had a contraption like this that was over my face, and it was too intrusive, and I didn't use it." And the tech, it wasn't even the doctor. The tech said, "Hey, you know what? Thanks for telling me that. I'm going to put a nasal cushion." So it's the same thing. You still wear something, but instead of having a big contraption like that, there's like a nasal cushion that goes under your nose. So I spent the night. That next morning, they were like, "You have sleep apnea, like to the worst degree. You have severe, you stop breathing. I don't know how many, like it was 98 times a minute or something like that. It was some like really high number. And again, it scared the hell out of me. They said this time we're not going to give you a BiPAP, or we're going to give you we're not going to give you a CPAP, but we're giving you a BiPAP. And I was like, what the heck is that? If you saw it, you would think it's a CPAP. It looks exactly like a CPAP, but the mechanism for how air is blown, I think it's constant versus variable. And again, don't hold me to that. You could probably Google the difference between a BiPAP and a CPAP. But in 2012, I got assigned a CPAP, and now in 2021, I got a BiPAP. So I started using that BiPAP, and man, it literally changed my life. Because now I wasn't waking up with headaches. I wasn't waking up feeling super groggy and tired. I was waking up with, a little bit more oomph in my step. And that sole decision there led to me being able to become more active. So, and again, I know timelines almost exactly. So so I didn't start working out until September of 2024. So from December of 2021 to September of 2024, when I joined the gym again, I just walked. I did a ton of walking, and I started out small walks with my dog, and then the small walks as the years went by, I just turned into multiple walks a day with the dog a lot of times. And we would just walk and walk and walk. And that decision. So now keep in mind, I only had two two or maybe even one more to do on that checklist for the surgery, which is that June, right? So like about 6 months later. So just by having that sleep and becoming more active, over the next 6 months, I dropped like 60 or 70 pounds organically just from doing all that walking, and it wasn't even a lot compared to what the type of walking I ended up doing as the years went by. That was like crazy walking, but that decision alone helped me drop like 60 to 70 pounds. So at that point I was like, well, I don't need to complete this checklist for the surgery, because again, if I could avoid surgery, and the thing about laparoscopic surgery too is you're left with permanent scars from where the robot goes in. I think it's like 6 or 7, so it's easily identifiable to me at least. If someone doesn't have their shirt on and you see like some, it would probably look like spots to you, and you see like, let's say anywhere from 5 to 7, like immediately I would think, he had surgery. He had that weight loss surgery, the gastric surgery. So, long story short, I didn't end up getting the surgery. And I just, through the use of my CPAP, I was able to just become more active. And it's crazy because, me at least, I didn't put a high importance on sleep, and I didn't realize how powerful of a thing it is. Because when you sleep, your cells and your mitochondria goes through their repair process. And that's like so important because the mitochondria is the power plants. That's how powerful sleep is, and I didn't realize it until it wrecked me. I was at the point where I was telling Fran I couldn't do full walks around my block with my dogs. This is like, in that December, like that year, that summer of 2021, we went to Baltimore and my lower back was killing me. It would, like, I had to stop to rest, and I just couldn't be like an active father. I couldn't be an active husband. I definitely couldn't like fulfill a lot of my duties as a husband. So I started working out in September 24, and it took me to like another level. So like September 2024. So let me rewind a little bit. In June of 2024, I was like 240 pounds. So once I started working out with weights again, and again, a lot of the principles that I learned from Fran's IncrediBody program, I split up my sets the same way you taught me from 30 plus years ago, and I would just like roll it out. That took me to the next level. So at that point, again, here's a car analogy. Maybe from that point, let's say in June of 2024, I was the equivalent of like an SUV. But once I started working out, man, wow, it took me to an entire different level. I don't know if I could show you. Let me show you a picture of the guns really quick.
Oh yeah, look at that! Look at that, man,
dude. But again, man, it's from working out a lot. Fran would always, even Razor Ramon told us that one time, you got to do your preacher curls. So a lot of what I learned is pretty much exactly what's in your program, the IncrediBody program. That a lot of the workouts you taught me, the old school workouts, I did. And, along the way, I just fell in love with the gym.
After you told me that story, I had already been tested for like 15 years ago or something, 20 years ago. I was negative, but I'm going to get tested again because I believe even if you're not overweight, right? I believe as you get older, your risk will go up. If you have sleep apnea, it's going to impact everything in your entire life, because talk to anyone who did not have energy and then on the flip side had energy. It changes everything. When you don't have energy, you don't have the wherewithal to accomplish the goals that you otherwise would be able to achieve. But when you do have energy, when you get up in the morning, you're ready to tackle the day. And when you're in that mode of lack of energy, you don't know what it feels like to have energy. It's like when you're sick. When you're sick, you don't know in the moment what it feels like to not be sick. It like feels like you've been sick forever when you're in the midst of a cold or a flu. Even though you've been not sick most of your life, it's hard to even go back to how it felt to not be sick when you're sick. Same deal when you're suffering from low energy. If you have sleep apnea and you have low energy, you don't even know what it feels like to not have low energy.
Yep.
So of course, if you're sleeping, like if you're on the couch all day, you're sleeping, you're not able to accomplish your goals, people judge you. People will look at you like, oh, this is a lazy bum. He just doesn't have the motivation. He's got to man up. Dude, if you have sleep apnea and your mitochondria, just like you said, aren't getting the energy they need, that's a legitimate reason for everybody watching this video to go out and get tested, because I'm going to get tested. I know that 100%. Because if you have it and you don't know you have it and you can do something about it, it could change your entire life. Before you go, I have 2 small favors to ask. Please hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It only takes a second, but it tells YouTube this mission is worth sharing. Over 91% of you still aren't subscribed, so join the IncrediBody community today, and let's transform bodies and minds one person at a time.